The 71st governor of Virginia is somebody who is also well known to many of you. A person who had time in the General Assembly from 1992 to 2006, and then served as our Attorney General from 2006 to 2009, and served as our 71st governor. And while his accomplishments were many during his time as governor, I think we can especially thank him for his commitment for a transportation funding initiative that helped keep Virginia moving forward. So as you drive around the Commonwealth of Virginia today and you see all the construction taking place and you see the investment at the port, we have to really thank this governor and the General Assembly at that time for their leadership on such an important issue that impacts the economy. Currently, he is a principal of the McDonnell Group. He's also practicing law, and he's a distinguished professor at Regent University. And I'm delighted to have him here and ask you to join me in welcoming the 71st governor, Governor Bob McDonnell.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much, Barry, for your nice introduction, and Susie, both of you, for your outstanding leadership and what you've done over the years to build the Virginia Chamber of Commerce into a real powerhouse, and all the help and support you gave me on so many programs during the time that I was governor. And thank you for that, Steve Murray. Great job. Glad we stole you from Louisiana. And thank you, Bobby Jindal, for training you so well. And the great work you're now doing in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Terry, was a great choice to bring Steve up here, and all the team. I see Christy and Paul and some of my other teammates that were in the EDP during that time, and Secretary Todd Hollywood Haymore. Thank you. No sunglasses today. Okay. He was quite the hit on the trade missions with his sunglasses everywhere, and he just did a terrific job for 3 administrations, Governor Kane, myself, and Governor McAuliffe, and I just appreciate all those public servants that are here, as well as all you business leaders for the things that you did, accompanying us on trips, giving us ideas before we went, and helping us shape economic policy. When I got elected, the first thing that I did was put together a jobs commission. It was an executive order I signed on the day that I got inaugurated, and put together people from around the state that helped come up with a vision for that first year in office to try to do some things right. It's really a treat to be here with my fellow governors. Governor Allen, really one of the first governors, I was in the House then, that really made jobs the top priority during his administration, and was an aggressive advocate for Virginia's economy. And Governor McAuliffe, never met a stranger, terrific champion for our Commonwealth. And I think he told me at his inauguration, McDonnell, I'm breaking every record you set. So I mean, he's pretty much been true to his word since then. And I had nothing going for me except my name, Bob's for jobs. So that worked out pretty well for me during that campaign. And we had a great team of people with Jim Ching, Todd Haymore, and others who really did a terrific job. Before I got elected, I'd been to several foreign countries, but I'd never really had to advocate for Virginia. I lived in Germany for 6 years and did some travel as Attorney General to China and Israel and some other places. But boy, when you are the Chief Executive Officer and you are the face of Virginia advocating it, it is different. My first foreign trade trip was to the foreign country of California. Because Governor Allen, as you said, and we're talking about the states are really in competition. Federal government starts setting policies dealing with tariffs, exports, et cetera, but a lot of the real work, I think, is done by the governors. We do compete with one another, and during the first couple months, we're very fortunate to recruit Wes Bush and Northrop Grumman to their new corporate headquarters in Northern Virginia, and I'll talk a little bit more about the state's competition here in a moment. I wanted to kind of go through sort of the laundry list of the philosophy that Jim and Todd and others helped put together about how we decided we were going to market Virginia to the world. The previous governors had really set a high bar for how we needed to promote Virginia in an ever-changing, competitive world, and we had so many strategic advantages. We thought that we should organize this systematically, and so I'm just going to kind of go through the list of the things that we did and some of the things that worked. First and foremost, I'll never forget the day I got inaugurated. I had a missive called the Haymore Manifesto in my office that outlined a system of how we would incorporate agriculture, Virginia's largest industry, into the economic development protocols and advocacy for our state. And so that was really one of the first things we did, is make agriculture a big part of our economic development trip. The Secretary went on every trade mission, all 9 missions that we went to. We've made the Secretary of Agriculture part of the VEDP board. We made sure that it was part of the overall plan everywhere we went, talking about Virginia products, particularly soybeans, wine, corn, wheat, some of these other things that Virginia had a major advantage of, and we had excess products being produced in the state. And so we, for instance, had major deals, $300 million deal of shipping soybeans to Dandong, China, and other deals with Japan because of the incredible soybean production in Virginia. We made wine production. Virginia is already the 5th largest wine producing state, but we signed the first deal, a commercial deal of shipping wine to China, with a deal we actually signed right here in Barbersville, Virginia, with the Chinese delegation coming over to that location and signing that agreement. We shipped, I think, the first livestock to Russia and Canada. And that was another part of our strength, the agriculture community. But we also realized, I think as Governor Allen said, we had other great strengths in advanced manufacturing with our high-tech community and our defense contractors and our outstanding educational research institutions. And so being able to promote those things abroad, defense, and of course tourism. Everywhere we went, inviting people to come to Virginia. It's one of the largest industries we've got, particularly in the area that I'm from, in Hampton Roads, Virginia. So using your strengths and, of course, promoting Virginia's great universities, our proximity to D.C. You sometimes talk to foreign leaders. They didn't know where a lot of states were, but they knew L.A., New York, and D.C., and saying we're right next to the power seat in America was a terrific selling point for us. Secondly was setting a very clear goal. We had really 3 goals. One was to increase exports from Virginia abroad. Secondly was to increase capital investment, foreign investment in Virginia. And then thirdly was to increase tourism, getting more foreign dollars, especially places like China, India, and others with emerging economies, having some of that capital come to Virginia with those tourism dollars. And tourism grew quite substantially during that time. Another part of the strategy was hire talented people. And so our Secretary of Commerce was Jim Ching. He happened to be fluent in Mandarin. Peter Su, a Deputy Secretary, also fluent in Mandarin. And so we knew that China was going to be a big part of the effort. And so having one of your top economic development officer who could speak the language was a real plus when we took those several trips over to China and Taiwan, Hong Kong, and other places in the Mideast. Fourth, we wanted to expand Virginia's presence on the ground. Life is controlled by those who show up, and you got to have a presence in places. And so we opened up trade offices in China and India, and another one in England. And in part because of the leadership of Secretary Haymore in the agriculture area, we thought, let's create agricultural trade offices in certain sectors. So we opened up 6 new offices. I made that a top priority that first year. Coming out of that Jobs Commission is to ask for a lot of money for new trade offices, especially agricultural trade offices. And we opened up those offices in India, China, England, Russia, Mexico, and Costa Rica. And so we had a presence on the ground, staffed a lot by locals, natives from those countries who were trained here in Virginia by VDP and our secretary, and can be our advocates, speaking the language but knowing our state, coordinating trade missions on the ground. And I think that was a great strategy that helped us a lot. As the other governors, I'm sure will say, a big part of it is the governor, the chief executive, being on the ground with the trade mission, with leaders from your state, going abroad and telling the Virginia story. And so I know we went to China, India, Germany, Sweden, England, France, Canada, Israel, Japan, Korea, Canada, I mentioned, and Ireland, and of course, California. I thought that one of the key things there is building relationships. I watched the previous governors and what they had been, but the key to economic success and successful missions. Well, one was relationships, and two was either money or strategic advantages of being in your state. That's what they want to hear about, because they got a lot of choices, 50 states to choose from if they want to invest in America. And so knowing a little bit about the language, at least being able to say mabuhay or ni hao or sheshe or something that would endear you to them, know the local customs about how you present that business card, things like that. That first impression, you can only make one good first impression, and so being trained by your economic development staff before you went over there to be sure you didn't step in it too badly on that first impression, and knowing some of the language, I think, was terrific. And of course, always inviting those leaders abroad to come to Virginia. And so after some of those missions, many of them actually did come here, see us on the ground, look at properties, look at the climate, meet some of our top business leaders, and they ended up saying, yeah, this is a place we want to do business. Of course, increasing incentives is so much a part of it. It's so hard to compete with places like Texas, California, and Florida when it comes to the massive millions of incentives that they've got. But we expanded the Governor's Opportunity Fund. I think, Governor Allen, I think you may have started that. It's now the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund. I don't know why they took the word governor out of it. I think they wanted to make sure that I know exactly what it is. Surprised it wasn't the General Assembly Opportunity Fund, but that's exactly right. But we increased it to about $40 million annually. We created some new tax incentives on film, on mega sites, on job training, and other things. Again, Secretary Haymore came up with this AFID program, the Agricultural and Forestry Incentive Fund, a new way to have like a Governor's Opportunity Fund, but solely focused on agriculture. And we were able to get particularly some of the Chinese paper manufacturers and other manufacturers to come and take advantage of that fund to locate here. Another strategy was go to all the big events that are abroad. So the air shows, I know for George and Terry, it's just a must. Paris and Farnborough, you got to go every year. I don't think I saw hardly any airplanes. I was so busy just doing meetings, running from one chalet to the next, because that's where all the major people in the defense industry and aerospace, that's where they were, and so that's where you had to be. And went to other things like the Beijing Governors Conference because there were so many people from around the world there as well. We also had an opportunity to help to promote CCAM, the Commonwealth Center for Advanced Manufacturing. Governor Kane had got that started. I actually got the ribbon cutting and helped to recruit the universities, Virginia Tech, Virginia State, to be part of an academic advanced manufacturing. Brett, I know you were very helpful with that, but that's been stood up now for nearly a decade and a half, and is doing a lot of good work to bring manufacturing of the highest tech, high-skilled jobs back to Virginia. Another thing was just improving the Virginia business rankings. We were fortunate to be number one in Forbes CNBC a couple of years, always in the top 5, doing things to improve the business climate in Virginia through transportation, higher education, investment, and reform. Another idea going abroad is always bring top-notch business people with you. They could do a far better job speaking the language than I could as governor, but that was very influential. Business-to-business connection makes a huge difference. Another strategy, and I see my light blinking. Can I have 2 more minutes? I'll take Terry's time. He was late. Okay. Believe me, he'll take his too anyway. Tie in cultural and education exchange. The gold standard across the world is an American education degree. And so promoting American universities. When I went to India, they were just opening up a Virginia Tech campus there. I got to do from Christ University in Bangalore, India. I got to do a real-time exchange with students at VCU. But those kind of things, going to the Forbidden City, the Palace Museum, foreign leaders really like the fact you take an interest in their country and their culture, and if it's genuine and you have a good exchange there, it'll lead to better relationships. Last couple things, always eat the crazy food, right, George? You did the chicken feet. I learned a lot of things. One, sea cucumbers are not vegetables, and they move, but you got to eat them. And if you don't know what to do, you just make your cabinet member eat it. So in Japan, they were trying to make me eat these great natto soybeans that we were doing a $100 million deal, and I said, it looks like glue in the soybeans. So I said, look, Secretary Haymore will eat it for me. So he's still not happy about that, but that's a true story. Finally, last couple places is try to go to places that are untapped. One of the great things we did, China had been pretty well penetrated by a lot of governors, but we went to a small little port town called Dandong, China, and that's where we did the $300 million soybean deal in a small little port right on the North Korean border. And that became a place where ultimately we did nearly $750 million in deal through that port as a gateway to Korea. The last thing I guess I'd say is really, and I'll save the rest of the comments for our panel discussion, is, you know, trade is so very important, not just because you can increase dollars and jobs for your state, but I believe ultimately it's a great tool for peace. Because if business leaders form the personal relationships, if they have great economic state in having a peaceful world, if the education leaders have a great exchange between professors and students among those universities, to me it's a great hedge against international conflict, and there'll be great pressure on the university and business leaders and the political leaders to make sure they maintain a peaceful environment. So I applaud you for what you do, and please go be good cheerleaders for Virginia. Thank you.